I had always prided myself on being the dependable one in the family, the one who made it out of our small Minnesota town and built something substantial. When my software engineering career took off in Seattle, I felt a profound joy in being able to fund our annual family vacations. For 5 years, I quietly covered everything from flights to luxury resorts. That sense of fulfillment lasted until last summer, when I accidentally stayed connected to a video call and heard my stepbrother Kyle casually refer to me as their cash cow. Before I tell you what I did after hearing that painful label, let me know where you are watching from and hit subscribe if you have ever faced ingratitude from loved ones. Growing up in Lakeville, Minnesota, I never imagined I would become the financial backbone of my fractured family. My parents divorced when I was 12, leaving our household in financial turmoil just as I was entering middle school. The timing could not have been worse for a kid trying to find his place in the world. My father remarried within 2 years to Amanda, who brought her 2 children, Kyle and Sophia, into our lives. Kyle was 10, then a boisterous kid who demanded attention, while Sophia was 8, quieter and more observant. Meanwhile, my mother found love again, with Richard, who had a teenage daughter named Jessica from his previous marriage. Jessica was 14 when they married, only 2 years younger than me, and we developed a surprisingly good relationship despite the awkward blended family dynamics. While my step-siblings enjoyed relatively stable childhoods after the remarriages, I found myself constantly shuttling between 2 households that never quite felt like home. I threw myself into computers and coding, finding solace in the logical world of programming, where problems had clear solutions, unlike the messy reality of my family life. School became my refuge. I excelled in math and computer science, eventually earning a full scholarship to the University of Washington. Even with the scholarship, I worked 20 hours weekly at the campus IT department to cover living expenses. I graduated with only $12,000 in student loans, a miracle compared to most of my peers. My dedication paid off when I landed a junior developer position at a prominent software company in Seattle. Starting at $75,000 a year felt like winning the lottery for someone who grew up watching his parents struggle financially. I lived frugally those first 2 years, sharing an apartment with 2 roommates and driving a 15-year-old Honda Civic, which allowed me to pay off my student loans completely. By 27, I had worked my way up to senior developer with a salary of $120,000. The promotion coincided with Kyle starting college, struggling with tuition payments. Without hesitation, I sent $5,000 to help with his first semester expenses. When Sophia followed to college the next year, I did the same for her. I never expected repayment. Helping my siblings felt right, especially knowing how college costs had skyrocketed. That same year, during a family video call where everyone complained about never seeing each other, I surprised everyone by suggesting a family vacation my treat. The joy and excitement on their faces made the expense seem worthwhile. I selected a modest beach resort in Florida. For that first trip, spending around $12,000 for 8 people. Everyone seemed genuinely grateful, especially my father, who pulled me aside to thank me for bringing the family together in a way that had not happened since before the divorces. That first vacation created memories I still treasure, building sandcastles with Sophia, deep conversations with Jessica under starry skies, and even seeing my parents interact civilly for the first time in years. When we parted ways at the airport, everyone hugged me tightly and expressed heartfelt thanks. I felt that I had finally found my place in the family, the successful son, who could provide experiences we could never afford growing up. Little did I know that this gesture would set a precedent that would gradually transform my role from generous family member to expected provider. The second annual family vacation took place in Hawaii, an upgrade from Florida that I was happy to provide after receiving a performance bonus at work. The shift in family dynamics was subtle but noticeable. Rather than expressions of surprise and gratitude when I announced the destination, I received responses like, "About time we went somewhere exotic," from Kyle, and "I was hoping we could go international," from Amanda. Still, I brushed off these comments, attributing them to excitement rather than entitlement. The vacation itself was enjoyable, though I noticed new behaviors emerging. When we went out to restaurants, everyone ordered the most expensive items without consideration. When activities were discussed, Cost never seemed to factor into the decisions. I found myself sliding my credit card across counters, with increasing frequency, the amounts growing larger each time. By the third vacation, a Caribbean cruise, the transformation was complete. My father and Amanda began planning excursions without consulting me, simply informing me of the costs afterward. "We booked the premium dolphin experience for everyone," Amanda announced one evening during dinner. "$400 per person. But worth every penny, right, Peter?" What could I say with everyone looking at me expectantly? The words "thank you" had all but disappeared from their vocabulary. Instead, comments like, "Well, Peter can afford," it became commonplace, often said right in front of me as if I were merely a funding source rather than a person with feelings. During the fourth vacation to a ski resort in Colorado, I noticed Kyle bringing a girlfriend without asking if the additional expenses would be acceptable. When I discreetly mentioned the unexpected additional plane ticket and lift pass costs, he looked genuinely confused. "But you always cover everything. What is another $1,000 to someone making your salary?" My mother and Richard had begun suggesting more extravagant destinations each year. "We were thinking Europe next year," my mother mentioned casually over breakfast. Richard has always wanted to see Paris and Rome. The assumption that I would fund an international trip for 8 people hung unspoken in the air. Back in Seattle, I confided in my girlfriend Rachel about my growing unease. We had been dating for almost a year, and she had purposely declined joining the family vacations, sensing something off about the arrangement. "Peter, what exactly are you getting from this arrangement?" she asked one night after I showed her the $15,000 credit card bill from the Colorado trip. The question haunted me. What was I getting? Certainly not appreciation, not meaningful family bonds. Those seemed to be deteriorating as the financial expectations increased. I was caught in a trap of my own, making afraid that withdrawing financial support would reveal that the only value I held for my family was monetary. "Have you ever considered that they might actually love you for more than your wallet?" Rachel pressed gently. "But you will never know if you keep playing ATM." The question struck a nerve. I had created this dynamic financing, increasingly lavish vacations, in a subconscious attempt to buy the family cohesion I had missed as a teenager. Yet instead of bringing us closer, money had corrupted our relationship, transforming natural family bonds into a transactional arrangement. Still, I convinced myself that setting boundaries would cause more harm than good. "They are still my family," I explained to Rachel. "Sometimes family means sacrifice." She shook her head sadly. "Sacrifice should be mutual, Peter." "When was the last time any of them sacrificed for you?" I had no answer. The pivotal moment came during a family video call to plan the next vacation, an ambitious 2-week European tour. I connected from my office during lunch break, apologizing for being distracted occasionally by urgent work emails. The planning session ran long, with increasingly extravagant ideas being tossed around: business-class flights, 5-star hotels in city centers, private tours of the Vatican. Near the end of the call, my boss messaged me about an emergency meeting, so I quickly muted myself and told everyone I needed to step away briefly, but would leave the connection open to catch the end of the discussion. They acknowledged this as I turned away from my laptop to take the call from my desk phone. The emergency took only 5 minutes to resolve, and as I returned to my seat, I could hear the family conversation continuing, apparently unaware that I could still hear them clearly. They had moved on from specific vacation details to discussing me. "Peter is not going to balk at business class once we tell him about the night tours in Paris," Kyle was saying with a laugh. "He is our cash cow. He cannot say no at this point." The term hit me like a slap. Cash cow. Not brother, not son, but a resource to be milked. "He makes over $200,000 now with his promotion," my father added, a fact I had proudly shared with him in confidence. "He will not miss the money." "Just remember not to ask for too much all at once," Amanda counseled. "As long as we boil the frog slowly, Peter will not mind." The frog in boiling water metaphor was not lost on me. They were consciously manipulating me, carefully escalating their demands to avoid triggering resistance. My mother chimed in. "Richard found this wonderful villa in Tuscany. It is another €2,000 for the week, but we can tell Peter about it after everything else is booked." He will not want to disappoint everyone by then. The deliberate strategy to corner me into financial commitments struck deeper than the money itself. This was premeditated exploitation from the people I loved most. Jessica, my stepsister from my mother's marriage, was the lone voice of reason. "Do you all realize how you sound right now? Peter works incredibly hard for his money." "Oh, please," Kyle dismissed her. "He sits at a desk all day typing. Meanwhile, I am breaking my back at construction sites making a quarter of his salary." "That is his choice," Jessica countered. "Peter spent years studying while you were partying through high school. He earned his position." "Whatever," Kyle replied. "The point is, he can afford it, and we deserve a nice vacation after the year we have had." I sat frozen, unable to breathe, as the conversation continued for another excruciating 10 minutes. They debated the best ways to extract maximum value from their cash cow without triggering resistance. My father suggested emphasizing family bonding. Amanda thought appealing to my desire for approval would work best. My mother believed that subtle guilt about my absence from their daily lives would ensure my cooperation. When I finally disconnected, my hands were shaking so badly, I knocked over my coffee mug, sending lukewarm coffee cascading across my desk. I barely noticed, as I called Rachel, my voice cracking as I recounted what I had heard. That night I combed through my financial records, tallying the vacation expenses over 5 years, $103,000 in total. The number made me physically ill. Not because of the amount itself, I was fortunate enough to earn well and lived below my means, but because of what it represented: years of manipulation and taken for granted generosity. I called my childhood friend Jake, who had warned me years earlier about setting precedents with family and money. "They showed you who they really are," he said bluntly, after hearing the story. "Believe them the first time." Sleep eluded me as I wrestled with my next steps. Direct confrontation would lead to denials, then resentment. Quietly withdrawing financial support without explanation would leave me with unresolved feelings. I needed an approach that would protect my dignity while sending a clear message about boundaries. The answer came at 3 in the morning. I would let them continue planning, allowing them to believe the status quo remained unchanged. But when the time came, they would discover exactly how it felt to have expectations shattered. For the next month, I participated in vacation planning calls with a performance worthy of an award. I asked appropriate questions about itineraries, nodded at expensive suggestions, and kept any trace of my knowledge carefully hidden. Meanwhile, I executed my own plan with meticulous attention to detail. First, I consulted a financial advisor about healthy boundaries with family. She helped me see that my pattern of overgiving stemmed from childhood insecurities and a desire to maintain connection through the only means that seemed reliable: financial support. Next, I began sessions with a therapist specializing in family dynamics who helped me process the hurt while developing strategies for redefining relationships on healthier terms. The breakthrough came when she asked, if they could not take another dollar from you, which family members would still want a relationship with you? The question clarified everything. I was not ending financial support to punish them, but to discover who truly valued me as a person. With Rachel's enthusiastic support, I researched and planned an alternative vacation during exactly the same time period as the family Europe trip. New Zealand, a place I had dreamed of visiting since watching Lord of the Rings as a teenager, offered the perfect combination of adventure and stunning landscapes. I booked 2 weeks for Rachel and myself, including activities like helicopter tours of Milford Sound and hiking the Tongariro crossing. As the deposit deadlines for the family Europe trip approached, the messages from family members grew increasingly urgent. My father called about finalizing the hotel bookings, which required immediate deposit. Amanda texted about locking in the best exchange rates by transferring money now. Kyle brazenly sent his clothing size for the designer shopping day in Milan. I responded to all with vague reassurances. Working on it. Checking my schedule, and will handle it soon. 1 week before their expected deposit deadline, when cancellations would mean losing thousands in reservation fees, I scheduled another family video call. They joined eagerly, probably expecting confirmation of funds transfer. "I have an announcement about the vacation." I began, casually watching their expectant faces. "Unfortunately, I will not be able to join the Europe trip this year." Confusion spread across their faces before my father asked, "Is it work? Can you join us halfway through?" "No, it is not work," I replied, maintaining eye contact. "I have actually booked another vacation during those exact dates. Rachel and I are going to New Zealand." The silence that followed was deafening until Kyle broke it with a nervous laugh. "But who is paying for the Europe trip?" The direct question deserved a direct answer. "I will not be financing the Europe trip. Not this year, not any year going forward." Chaos erupted. My father demanded explanations. Amanda turned red with indignation. My mother looked bewildered. Kyle began calculating aloud how much money they had already committed based on my expected contribution. "I think there has been a misunderstanding about my role in these family vacations," I continued, when they quieted enough to hear me. "I recently discovered how you all view my contributions when I overheard a planning call where I was referred to as the family cash cow." Their expressions shifted from outrage to shock. My father attempted damage control, claiming I had misinterpreted a joke while Amanda suggested I was overreacting to casual comments. I heard everything I said firmly. About boiling the frog slowly, about hiding additional expenses until it was too late for me to object, about deliberately manipulating me through guilt and obligation. I heard it all. The denials continued until I calmly recited their exact words from that day, including timestamps. The precise quotes silenced their protests. Over 5 years, I have spent over $100,000 on family vacations. Vacations where my preferences were rarely considered, where my generosity was never acknowledged, and where the expectation of my financial support grew, increasingly entitled. My mother tried a different approach, tears forming. "We thought you enjoyed providing these experiences for the family. You never indicated it was a burden." "Enjoying giving and being exploited are different things," I replied. "I loved creating family memories. I did not love being manipulated and taken for granted." Kyle shifted quickly to anger. "So you are just cutting everyone off?" "Real mature." "I am establishing boundaries," I corrected him. "Moving forward, I am happy to participate in family activities where costs are divided equitably among adults. I am even open to helping in true emergencies. But the days of being your cash cow are over." The call ended with threats and recriminations. My father warned that I would regret damaging family relationships over money. My mother suggested I was being cruel by withdrawing support without warning. Kyle openly called me selfish and entitled an irony that would have been amusing under different circumstances. Only Jessica, and surprisingly Sophia, remained quiet, their expressions thoughtful rather than outraged. The aftermath played out predictably at first. Group texts exploded with accusations. Flying monkeys were deployed, distant relatives called to express concern about my sudden change in attitude toward family. Social media posts appeared with thinly veiled references to selfish relatives who forget their roots. I weathered the storm by focusing on work, spending time with Rachel, and continuing therapy. 2 weeks after the confrontation, I received a text from Sophia asking if we could talk privately. Over coffee near her university campus, my younger stepsister displayed remarkable maturity. "I am sorry," she said simply. "I knew what was happening was wrong, but I went along with it because everyone else did." Her honesty was refreshing. She explained that the family was in disarray, the Europe trip canceled amid bitter recriminations and blame shifting. Kyle was particularly vocal about my betrayal, while my father and Amanda were scrambling to explain to their friends why the much-publicized European vacation was no longer happening. "Jessica has been amazing," Sophia added. "She has been calling everyone out on their behavior toward you for years, apparently. I should have listened to her sooner." This unexpected alliance with my stepsisters provided comfort during the difficult months that followed. Both young women began establishing their own boundaries with the family, inspired partially by my example. The New Zealand trip with Rachel proved transformative. Freed from the weight of family expectations, I rediscovered joy in travel for its own sake. Watching the sunrise from a mountaintop in Queenstown, I proposed to Rachel, who accepted with tears and laughter. Upon returning, I found tentative peace offerings from some family members. My father sent a brief email acknowledging that things got out of hand with the vacation expectations. Amanda apologized for specific comments I had overheard. My mother remained distant but sent a congratulatory card when she learned of my engagement. Only Kyle maintained his stance that I had violated some unwritten family contract. When you make it big, you are supposed to share with family, he insisted during our one attempted conversation, post-confrontation. That is what family means. Family means mutual respect and support, I countered. Not one-directional financial flow with increasing expectations. Over the following year, new patterns emerged. Smaller, more meaningful family gatherings replaced extravagant vacations. A weekend camping trip where everyone contributed according to their means. Holiday dinners where hosting responsibilities rotated. My wedding, where Rachel and I paid for our own celebration, but welcomed family participation. Not everything healed perfectly. Some relationships remained strained, particularly with Kyle. Others transformed into something more authentic, especially with my stepsisters. But even the difficult relationships now rested on honest footing rather than unspoken resentments and expectations. The most profound change occurred within me. I learned that genuine generosity comes from choice, not obligation or manipulation. I discovered that relationships strong enough to survive boundaries are the only ones worth maintaining. And I realized that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and others is to stop enabling unhealthy patterns. Today, 3 years later, I still contribute to my family financially, helping Sophia with graduate school applications, contributing to a fund for my father when health issues affected his work, celebrating milestones with thoughtful gifts. But these contributions come from free choice, not obligation, and are received with genuine gratitude rather than entitled expectation. The cash cow has retired, but the son, brother, and now husband and father remains not defined by his wallet, but by the strength of his boundaries and the authenticity of his connections. Have you ever had to establish difficult boundaries with loved ones who took your generosity for granted? How did you handle that delicate situation? Share your experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit like, subscribe to hear more real-life lessons, and share with someone who might need encouragement in setting healthy boundaries. Remember, sometimes the most loving gift you can give others is the opportunity to appreciate you for who you are, not what you provide. Thank you for listening, and until next time, value yourself as much as you value others.